And there we go. I've just hit recording, Jeff. We are back with another episode of the wildly popular Gold Ball Hunting podcast. This is episode number 200 plus. I'm not sure when this is going to be released. It's over 200. It's less than 210. Somewhere in that area there. And this is going to be, I guess, a reality check of some things that a lot of players don't want to have to deal with.
Right.
So before we get into today's right, well,
make it go away. Make
it
stop.
Yeah. This is one of those things that not many players think about, and the better ones do. And it's just that you got to put up with this stuff from time to time. So I'm going to talk about the free coaching call at the end. So let's just get right into it, Jeff. And so the question I'm going to ask you is, what variables out there when we're playing matches? Let's call it singles matches. What variables out there are we fighting? What variables out there do we just not want to have to deal with?
Right. Or are you just completely unaware that that's actually in play, that variable is in play?
Absolutely.
And you're just totally blind to it. And it is like the subtle feature that's actually causing you to not win the match today, because they can't.
I think a lot of players just sort of are in denial about specific variables that are out there that
right.
They just go, I'll just go ahead and do my plan A. Oops, plan A doesn't work with this variable.
Right. So what are we talking about, right? So what variable, Jeff? Right. So
I'm asking you the
right. So the thought occurred to me. Right. So the thought occurred to me how this came up is I was walking the grass this morning barefoot to feel the moisture, feel what's going on. It's very scientific, and the thought occurred to me.
Dipping the big toe.
Dipping the big toe in. So the thought occurred that, because I watch, obviously, the club players here play on the grass, and the grass, the surface itself is a varied surface. So, really any player will tell you, the bounces on grass are much worse than on clay, and clay are less, a little bit less true than on a hard court. But so the idea was, I've seen players kind of become frustrated and fight the surface they're playing rather than relax into it and start to understand the nuance of it. And that, the ball's bouncing on both sides of the net. That guy's going to get some crappy bounces too. I'm going to get some. But can I find a way to actually relax here and actually somehow get that weird bounce and just shove it back neutral and wait for another pitch, right, in it? But I find that players initially kind of, fight the variable, and they may not even know that the variable is actually in play. So with that, like on grass, I watch players that the minute they get a bad bounce, especially if it's a tournament match, and you can see it at Wimbledon too. Oh God, the hand goes out, and it's like, did everybody in the stadium see that bounce? Did everybody see that? It wasn't my fault that I just hacked that forehand, right?
I was robbed.
I was robbed. And so then it's the little mopey walk and the blah, blah, blah. And oh my God, why is this happening to me? Right? And so we've all seen it. And I look at that and kind of go, wait a second. It's the surface, right? So the surface has a say in the matter. Because of the way that each surface plays. Now, hard courts are varied far and wide, fast to slow. There can be a crack in the court. There could be all kinds of things that change our utopian surface, our utopian playing surface, and zero wind, only a slight breeze when I'm changing sides.
Well, look, we all, we've talked about everyone, playing inside their comfy confines, whether it's a club or a public facility or where a high school, a college, wherever it is. And those comfy confines are that way because you're used to it. And the next thing you know, and it could be a standard speed hard court.
Right.
And then you go play a league match or you go play a tournament and you find out, geez, I'm getting shipped out today from the tournament. I'm going over this high school where they have not resurfaced since, well, at least in the 2000s.
Right.
Maybe in 1999 they did.
Yeah.
That thing is like glass. And they haven't washed
Right.
these courts because they're in California with this apparent, drought thing going on. So they haven't washed courts.
Right.
There's a nice level of dust. And
Yeah.
actually,
And leaves too, because there's a few oak trees nearby.
that's true. And the only good news is it's so dusty that the ball leaves a mark, and it's like clay. You can actually see if the ball is in or out. That's the good part, I guess. But if you've been drilling your windshield wiper extreme forehand grip deal, Western grip deal forehand, and now all of a sudden you're on the glass court, that's a variable that you haven't really
Right.
figured out that you might have to account for when you go play your league match. And you can't use it as, I don't know what to do.
Right. So that was my thought, is that, as players, are you aware when you walk out to the court of the subtle variances that happen when you're out there? We talked about this before we started the recording, down at Indian Wells, playing those courts. When you're out on the, even the practice courts and then the next row of match courts, there's always a slight breeze from one end, and it's very subtle, but your ball carries just a hair, and you got this light, let's say, very to zero humidity air, so the ball's already going to travel a little bit. The other end of the court, the ball kind of knocks down a little bit, and it holds up, and it's just enough to throw off your contact point. And so if you're not aware of it, all of a sudden you can be throwing out, a lot of free points and wondering what's wrong with your stroke today. And what it is, there's nothing wrong with the technical aspect of what you're doing. It just happens to be that you're not aware of the subtle variables about what's actually happening. The court surface is slow, the air is thin, there's a slight breeze, XYZ, and now here we are. And so I just wanted, players to be aware of that. When you're on clay, same thing. It's like, you're going to get some bad bounces, and that's just the nature of the beast. So don't fight that. Be aware of it, that, ball's going to check up on you sometimes. It's going to bounce left. It's going to bounce right. It's not going to be perfect. It's a crosswind today, whatever that might be. But the more you want to do this with it, the variables are going to win. The variables can push back harder than you can push through them. What you have to learn to do is to work with them, and to not be bullheaded and just go, I'm just going to do this today, because that is a rough road.
Yeah.
And usually doesn't come out in your favor.
Yeah. Well, look, and I think the way to get comfortable with these variables is to, as often as possible, play at different clubs, different facilities, with different players. I mean, some of the variables are not always the surface has a say. Some of it is the different opponent has a say as well. And that's a variable that if you've got a practice schedule inside your comfy confines where Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, it's the same guy or the same gal, guess what? You're sort of got this deep groove of what you think is, wow, I'm starting to play pretty well.
Right.
Okay. If that's what you want to do, if your tennis life is Monday, Wednesday, Friday with the same player and you're not a competitive player, that's cool. That's fine. I got no problem with that. But if you are a competitive player, league guy or tournament guy, or even if you're not playing leagues and tournaments but you want to become better, the fastest way to getting better, I think, Jeff, is what you're talking about. Put yourself into those situations where you are presented with different variables over and over and over again. And that's really sort of more match play solving, I guess, for lack of a better term, is you start to realize that, geez, well, under these kind of variables and conditions, I'm not as good as under these kinds. So what could I do to get a little bit more comfortable with those kind of variables? And you, like we said in our last episode, dude, you can't just read a book and all of a sudden,
Right.
Maybe someday when they put the chip in there and they implant it in there, and
Right.
there's a
Going
little
full matrix.
little Bluetooth with the iPhone
Right.
going. Let's see. I need to get better when it's a fast service.
Right.
Boom. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've got it.
I need to be a Apache helicopter pilot right now.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. I need those skills instantly.
Right now.
Apache helicopter pilot. Huh, I wouldn't have thought of that one, but that's good. All right, guys. So look, we're off on a free coaching call. It's only 10 minutes. Might not seem like much time, but if we focus on one thing, not the whole shopping list, but one thing in your game, and not one generic, big, general question, but one very, very specific thing that you're finding in your matches needs attention. Let's get on the coaching call. 3 of us. It's private. It is free, but it's just 3 of us on a conference call, and Jeff and I will set you on the right path to help you get the solution, eventual solution, to solve that problem. Go over to goalballhunting.com. Drop in a first name and email. Drop in your first name, not someone else's, yours, and your email address. Click the button, and you'll get access to our online calendar scheduler. You get to pick a date and time that works best for you. Jeff, what do we want these fine folks to do right now?
We love them to like us, share us, please subscribe, let us know what you think down below.
Wow. On that, get out there today, everybody. Help someone else have a great day. Jeff, we'll do this again tomorrow.
Can't wait.